Okay, this is a pre-algebra video. We're going to continue on our unit dealing with rational and irrational numbers. We've gone over fractions, decimals, and percents, and today we're going to add proportions. Background knowledge here we need to remember from last year when dealing with proportions, some properties of dealing with these. If we have a proportion which is just setting two fractions equal to each other, there's one basic thing we need to remember that'll help us out in this unit, and that's the idea of cross products. Okay? Cross products means if I multiply this set and then I multiply these diagonals, they should all come out even. Okay, so let's explore this. Is 25 times 4 equal to 1 times 100? Well, we know that to be true. We know that's 100 on both sides. Okay, so that's the basic idea of proportions. The other thing you need to remember, all right, so that takes care of proportions. Percents are always out of 100. Okay, and so if we're talking about 25%, well, that's just 25 over 100. Okay, those are two basic things that'll help you in this section. All right, so let's dive in here. A percent is a ratio with a denominator of 100. Yep, talked about that already. The word percent actually means 100. Okay, we have the graphic up here, 13 out of 100, blah, blah, blah. We know that. Okay, keep that in mind. To find the percent of a number, rewrite the percent as a fraction or decimal, multiply and simplify, or draw a rectangular array to visualize. Okay, so when we talk about this example here, what is 25% of 36? We can do it a couple different ways. All right, what is? Well, we're talking about, we know that of means multiply. Okay, and so this one's pretty straightforward. We can just go 25%. We know that to be a decimal. It looks like that. All right, 25% also looks like this. Okay, this should be review from last week's deal. Okay, we can simplify this down to 1/4, and then we can apply what we know of means in math. Of means multiply. Okay, so multiply 36 times 36. Okay, we'll do the top one first. 25 hundredths, you can use your calculator on this stuff. We know that to be 9. If we keep it in a fraction here, we can cross cancel, and we get the same exact thing. Okay, so when we're looking at something that's asking you, what is 25% of 36? It's just sitting right there. All right, make a number sentence and solve. Okay, for the next one, what is 70% of 70? All right, it's just right there, pretty easy for us to solve. So we need to change this into something we can use. Here again, you can go decimal or fraction. All right, we know that of means multiply. Okay, we could also go the fraction route. 70%, well, we know that's 70 out of 100. All right, simplify when you can. So 7 out of 10, and then we're multiplying by 70. Okay? Either way, you're going to get the same answer. It just comes down to whether you would rather work with decimals or percents. Or fractions, excuse me. Okay? So when we're set up like that, those seem to be pretty easy. What gets a little more difficult is when we put in the proportion piece. Okay? Keep in mind the cross products. Okay? Now, the basic rule here is A is P% of B. Okay? Now, I kind of go a little different direction on this one. Take a look at what we have here, and I like to identify the part and the whole. Okay? And so you'll need to ask yourself those questions. Which number given to you is the part, and which is the whole? After that, you'll have two different ways to solve. I'm going to jump right in, and I'm going to flip back and forth to the previous page here. And let's take a look at something right here and just see what we need to identify as the part and the whole. Okay, 7 is what percent of 35? Now remember, we're working with proportion, so it's going to look like this. We are going to set up a proportion, but we're just going to involve percents. Okay, we're trying to find a percent, so we know right away there's going to be some number out of 100. Okay, if you remember that was this part right here. We're trying to find a percent, so that number is going to be out of 100. All right, 7 is what percent of 35? Of 35, this right here tells you that is the whole. The number that's going to follow of is the whole, okay? And so remember, we put our part over the whole equal to the percent over 100, okay? If you recall from where we looked at here, we just have A is the part, B is the whole, P over 100, okay? So if 35 is the whole, 35 is going to go on the bottom. All right, what's 7? 7 is the part. They're asking for the percent, so they're asking for the P. Okay, so we have this set up, and now we have basically two options. We can simplify and find the rule. Doesn't always work out, or we can use cross products. This one actually works out pretty good. If we just simplify 7 over 35, we'll reduce by 7 and get 1/5 is equal to P over 100. We'll find the rule. How do you get from 5 to 100? Well, you multiply by 20. That rule has to apply on top if it is a proportion. So 1 times 20. We're going to get P equals 20% in this one. Okay? You can always plug these back in and check yourself. Back to this one right here, or the bottom one, doesn't make any difference. Plug your 20 back in and see if it works. This one will not be quite as easy, because this one we'll have to use cross products. Okay? And so first of all, we need to identify what is the part and what is the whole. What percent of 72 is 54? Remember, the number following of will be your whole. That's going to be your whole number. That's the number we're talking about, okay? So in our proportion, remember the whole goes on the bottom, so 72 goes on the bottom, is what percent of 72 is 54? Remember, we're going to have a proportion where there's a 100 on the bottom. We're trying to find a percent, so here again, we're going to keep P right there, okay? And so obviously 54 has only one more place to go. All right, so now we have two ways we can solve this. We can either simplify and try to find the rule, or we can go cross products on this one. All right, let's go ahead and try to simplify it. 2 makes sense in this one. We're going to get 27 over 36 is now equal to P over 100. Well, now that's going to make things a little bit easier, but it's not going to make it, there's no clear-cut rule of 36 times something equals 100. So we're going to introduce the idea of cross products on this one. Remember, cross products means 36 times P, or in other words, 36P is going to equal 27 times 100. Well, that's going to be 2700. All right, 36P equals 2700. Isolate the variable, so divide both sides by 36. Okay, 2700 divided by 36. You can use your calculator on this section. If I didn't mention that already, it's going to equal 75. Okay, this is a percent we're finding, so P is going to equal 75%. You can plug that back in, go 36 times 75, it should get you 27 times 100. Okay, you can always check yourselves on these. All right, so here again, the most important part is getting it set up. What's the part? What's the whole? Okay, and so if you're having a hard time remembering that, don't be afraid to flip back here. We always follow the same thing. We always are trying to find the part over the whole equals what percent over 100. Use that same proportion every single time. All right, so let's take a look at number 3 here. What number is 24% of 150? Okay, this one they give us a percent. Well, that's our P, guys. All right, so 24 over 100 is going to equal our part over our whole. Okay, what did we say? Of 150, the number that immediately follows of is going to be your whole. All right, that's all of something. That's 100% of something. Okay, so in this example, we're going to find our part. Okay, so we have our proportion. We can simplify where needed. It always makes it a little bit easier if we can simplify stuff out. I'm not going to in this one. It's going to give me a little bigger numbers to mess with. I'm okay with that. Okay, and so cross product says that P times 100, so 100P is equal to 150 times 24. Okay, when I simplify that down, I get 3,600 here. And I just have 100P. Okay, one step problem here, I just have to isolate the variable, divide by the coefficient, which means divide both sides by 100. P is going to equal 36. Okay, so that means that if I wanted to check myself, okay, I could go over here and check myself by going 36 over 150 is equal to 24 over 100. I could work the cross products up on this. 150 times 24. That should be equal to 36 times 100, which we know to be 3,600. Okay, this one will check out. Okay, word problem. We're still doing the same thing, guys. We're still going to try to find the part, the whole, and we're going to use the percent out of 100. All percents are out of 100. All right. 40% of the students were boys. If 22 of the students were boys, how many total students were there? All right. 22, we have to identify. Okay? It's not after of. Remember, we talked about the number that immediately follows of is the whole. So this one must be the part. All right? So 22 over something. All right, let's see if we can plug anything else in. This one gives us a percent, 40%. All right, so that's going to go there, 40 out of 100. All right, and so for this example, we're finding the whole. So we're going to put W in there. All right, we're finding how many of the students, so that's a whole. All right, cross product away. We can go ahead and simplify. It might make things easier. So I'm going to simplify down and just go 22W equals 40 over 100. We get rid of a set of zeros, and then we reduce by 2, and we should get 2/5. That'll make my numbers a little bit easier to deal with here. We cross product this up. Remember, W times 2, so 2W is equal 5 times 22. Okay, that one's going to equal 110. So, isolating the variable, we'll divide both sides by 2 to get W equals 55. Alright, what are we talking here? We're talking students. If I wanted to check myself, I'd plug everything back into my initial proportion and try cross products again. Okay. Okay, so that's it for examples. Guys, I'm really going to emphasize this part right here. Okay, we got to find the part and we got to find the whole. How do you find the whole? Well, that's the number that's going to immediately follow of. Okay? So go ahead and dive into your assignment. Don't forget to let me know if you have any questions. Actually, let me see if I have this pulled up. Let's just go ahead and do one. Okay? Here's your assignment for today. Number 1 says, what percent of 65 is 13? Okay? Now this one's going to be pretty easy. You are going to, let me see if I can figure out how to edit this. Okay, so I cheated a little bit here and I copied it onto a new slide. Alright, and so here's our problem. What percent, alright, of 65 is 13? So we're trying to find the part and the whole. Remember, the part over the whole equals the percent over 100. What do we have here? Okay, we have a number that immediately follows of. Okay, that's our whole. Okay, and so that's going to be 65 is 13. Okay, so that's the part of the whole. Alright, we're looking for a percent, so we're going to be looking for P. That would be set up over top of 100. Okay? Now, I don't see a rule that goes 65 times something is 100, so I'm going to pull up the calculator here. Remember, we're going to use cross products. 65 times P equals 13 times 100. Well, that's 1300. Alright, so I'm going to divide both sides by 65. 1300 divided by 65. Go ahead and pull up the calculator. 1300 divided by 65. And that's going to equal 20. So P is going to equal 20. Remember, this was a percent. It's asking for what percentage. So number 1, done for you. Number 1 is done. Go ahead and take a look at the rest of them here. We'll see you guys next week.